So in the first quarter of the year, January, February, March, I earned $49,687. Now, that's a pretty good Q1 amount of income. If I kept that up, it would mean that I would earn $200,000 for the year. But as you can see, it gets better. By the end of today's video, I'm gonna reveal exactly down to the dollar how much money I made my very first year in real estate. And for you watching this, maybe you're just curious or you wanna know the exact strategies that you can take and use in your business, whether you're first year, fifth year, it doesn't matter. If you guys like this breakdown, I'm actually gonna give you this house chart template so you can track everything for yourself. And the other video where I share the house chart template will show you even more of what's available there, but you're gonna love this. I've used it religiously. It's how I track every detail of where my deals come from, how much commission I generate, and my income at a monthly level. Let's dive right in. So first, a little bit about me. My name's Nicolle. I'm 32 years old. At the time that I did all these sales, I was 30 years old, and I had a pretty wide range of clients my first year in real estate. We had everybody from empty nesters to people that were looking to downsize, first-time home buyers, everything in between, even some pre-construction projects. Now I share that because the advice that you'll hear often is to niche down and really focus on a demographic. Here where I am, I'm in the Greater Toronto area, so Southern Ontario, and more specifically, I'm actually about 30 minutes from the famous Niagara Falls. And that area, you have house prices that are around $850,000. Now, the reason I'm sharing all that is that I actually didn't niche down a ton. I really tried to just get my message out there and be as vocal as possible about the fact that I was a real estate agent on Facebook, social media, as well as in the public eye. And I did that because I didn't really know who I was gonna connect with the most. So I didn't wanna narrow my messaging so much and miss a target audience. And that meant that I was interacting with a lot of different customers, which here in the Toronto area, you have such a wide range of clients. You actually want that level of ability to reach different demographics and different niches. So I didn't niche down a ton my very first year. Now, with that being said, I mentioned the average house price was 850 grand, but my average price that I'll show you guys in a second was around 950 grand for sales. So out of all my sales, averaging them up, $950,000. The most expensive home that I sold was $1,650,000, and the least expensive was all the way down to $380,000. And I sold everything in between. $1 million houses, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 houses, like truly everything in between. And that average ended up being that $950,000 or so number. Now, the way that I get compensated, at least here in the Greater Toronto area, is it can be anywhere from 4 or 5% as a commission that gets shared and is paid for by the seller and is shared from the listing agent to the buying agent. So when you're buying, you're typically gonna get anywhere from 2 to 2.5%. That's 5% split or 4% split. And then the same is gonna be true when I'm selling. I'm gonna get either 2% or 2.5%. Now, in general, I charge 5%, and I stand by that really strongly because within that 4 or 5% that a listing agent is charging the seller, they're providing various services. Things like maybe home cleaning, staging, photography, videography, all those details in between. We compensate all those people for that. And then we also have various things that we do to make that experience really great for my sellers. And most importantly is when you look at the averages of what you're able to help your clients sell for over the market average, that's been a really big reason for us to charge a slightly higher commission, as I'm able to prove now, hey, we actually sell $1 million houses for about $47,000 more. And I'm sharing that for you watching this because even if you're in your first year, fifth year, whatever, you want to start to identify, can you charge more commission and justify it because you're actually putting more money back into the pockets of your clients. And if you can do that, then you can also charge a slightly higher commission. Now, once that deal is done and a house is actually sold, I don't get paid all the way until the closing of the home, when the new buyer actually moves into the home. And at that time, the good thing is I don't need to chase around the seller for the money because the lawyers divvy everything up. That money's in escrow. Lawyers divvy it all up so that I get paid the day that happens. And it's actually my brokerage who gets paid, and then they send me the funds. And at that time, the brokerage takes their split as well. Now, speaking of brokerages, my brokerage does an 80-20 split until I've paid them $16,000, and then I get to keep the rest. And I pay a really small per transaction fee of a few $100s. Let's say it's around $500 per transaction afterward. Now, the reason that's important is that some brokerages will actually take 5 or 10% of every transaction forever, and there's no cap. Now, the cap is like reaching the ceiling of how much they can charge you for the year based on splits before they stop taking a percentage of your deals. I would highly recommend you do the math on your production or your projections or whatever your plans are to calculate, should you be giving someone 5 or 10% of your business forever? That's actually really crazy when you think about it. And the reason I know that is my background as an entrepreneur. You go out and you give away 5 or 10% of your company, there better be a really good reason for doing that. So with EXP, the brokerage that I'm at, I pay an 80-20 split. And then once I've paid them $16,000 for the year, that's it. I get to keep the rest. And for me, as someone who you're gonna hear in a second how much money I make, that is actually really important because otherwise I would end up giving them way more money than I would want to give any brokerage. So know your numbers, that's super important. So we talked about splits with brokerages, we talked about the caps. The other thing that we want to talk about is teams, which is a whole other thing. You could join a brokerage, but then joining a team is completely separate and you're probably gonna be joining a team and their brokerage, whichever brokerage they're with. The reason teams are so good, and I didn't decide to join one, but it's because I knew everything that I had to go do in my first year to really execute at a high level. But I would highly encourage you in your first year, go join a team. Actually go find a team that you can align with because they're gonna help you shortcut the journey to success. They're gonna help you shortcut the number of experiences you get to have by having them sooner and more quickly, going on more appointments with listings, with buyers, spending more time around agents doing lots of deals, learning from your team lead. Those are all really good things. And if you're joining a team, you'll likely have a brokerage fee that you're paying. Maybe it's 80-20 to you and your brokerage, right? 20% of the brokerage, just like I'm doing. But then with your team, you're also gonna have a totally separate split. And that is negotiable with your team. A lot of teams take 50% of the split of what you're getting for a commission. So let's take $1 million, for example. You're gonna get 2.5% of that, which is gonna be $25,000. Then you're gonna have an 80-20 split, which means you're gonna give $5,000 to your brokerage and you're gonna get to keep the other 20, and then you're gonna split it with the team and likely get to keep $10,000. And then you might be thinking, well, why would I wanna give a team $10,000? And the answer is actually really simple. When you're getting started, you're not gonna do as many deals. So think about it like a pie. It's like you're gonna get a smaller slice, but of a much larger pie. Whereas if you're out on your own your first year, you're gonna be chasing after crumbs and do way less deals. And even though you get to keep 100% of it, remember 100% of 0 is still 0, or 100% of 1 is still 1. Whereas you could go out and do 20 deals and get half of that, that's 10. So the difference is really important to understand how a team's gonna provide you value. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, I'm gonna actually open up something called my house chart. I'm looking at it right here on my computer, and this is a breakdown month over month of my earnings my first year in real estate. Little caveat to this is that I had a 1 to 2 month build up before this fiscal year started, January, February, March, because I got my license the very end of the year before, and I was spinning my wheels for those first couple months, getting things set up, kind of laying the foundation. So for you to hit the ground running, this is still gonna give you a pretty good idea of exactly what that first year looked like. So January, and remember as well, looking at this, January is $0, but this is when I actually got to collect the cash. So remember, you sell a house, it's gonna take you 30, 60, or 90 days from the time you sell that house before you actually get paid because that buyer has moved into that home. So you can see January, I did nothing. February, I made $36,000. Pretty awesome second month in the business, all right? And March, you can see that I generated $13,000. So in the first quarter of the year, January, February, March, I earned $49,687. Now, that's a pretty good Q1 amount of income. If I kept that up, it would mean that I would earn $200,000 for the year. But as you can see, it gets better. In April, I did $90,000. In May, I did $78,000, $835. And then in June, I did $96,900. So my Q2 was a whopping $266,000. And by that point in the year, I had made $315,923. Pretty big amount of income, and we're halfway through the year. So a couple things to note. You're gonna notice as you get into this business, or if you've already been in real estate for a while, real estate is very seasonal. Here in the Greater Toronto area, the weather gets better leading kind of February, March, April, May, and that's when all the transactions happen. And then what happens is, as you go into the summer, things start to cool off a little bit. Everybody starts going on vacation, everybody starts relaxing, and there's less transactions happening. And then September, October, things pick up a little bit again in the fall, and then they totally die off November to December. So study your market, look at the local market trends of when homes are getting listed, and the most important thing for you to remember is that there's a delay. There's a delay of 30, 60, 90 days. So when you see this income here, like June, for example, I probably made that $96,000 that I collected in June. I actually made it back in around March and April. And the reason that's really important to remember is that if I want to go, how did I make $96,000 in June? I need to look at the actions that I took in March and April to understand how I ended up with that money in June. And a lot of realtors don't understand this. A lot of real estate agents go like, I did well this month. These were all the things that I was doing this month, but you need to look at when you actually booked that business. And then in July, we're now in Q3, I did $188,000 in July. I did $69,000 in August, and then I did $37,000 in September. So you can see it was like a big spike leading up to July, my biggest month of $188,000, which is pretty crazy. And then it started to die off pretty rapidly as we went into the later months, as we will go into Q4. And that means my biggest quarter, Q3, $296,000. So pretty awesome. Keep in mind, by the way, everything we're talking about today, this is an unheard of first year for 99.99999% of real estate agents. You're not gonna make this much money in your first year, and if you do, call me because you're doing something amazing and I wanna learn from you. So this first year was truly phenomenal. And while the market was like up and all kinds of craziness, this is also the year that we saw the market peak in about February, March here in the Greater Toronto area of 2022 before it came tumbling way down and the market shifted pretty dramatically. So I had to fend for my life towards the end of this year. And you can actually see that it was still a really strong year for me despite the changing market, all right? The year to date, all the way to September, I had generated $612,000, 248, all right? And then as we head into October, I had 0 deals that I collected from in October, which means that just like you'd expect, probably July, August, those months over the summer, there wasn't as many deals happening those months, and it led to 0 collections in October. And then November, I did $18,000. In December, I did $45,000. My Q4, the weakest other than Q1, it was $64,000. So my total year of income, you ready for the grand total? $676,000, 298. Now, we filmed some other videos where I share how there's also business that I was booking within that year that I didn't get to collect until the next year, right? January, February, March. So the actual amount of business that I generated within those 12 months was actually more like $750,000 because I started doing deals again, October, November, December, that didn't actually close until January, February, March of the next year. And that's important because again, we're looking at the dollars that I collected. We're not necessarily looking at all the income generating activities that I actually did that specific year. And since I mentioned exactly how much income I generated for that year, here is the final breakdown of my total year-to-date commission that I generated, which is $742,806. All right, there you go. That's the total number. You can see, by the way, that I set a really big target. I had a target of $1 million for my first year. And truth be told, I even thought that number was ludicrous. So I knew that it was a crazy number and I didn't believe that I would actually get to this number. Truthfully, I was like, if I could make 300 grand my first year in real estate, I'd be thrilled. I'd be over the moon happy. So to generate that level of income that first year was exceptionally surprising, but I do think that it's because I had this huge target and I was like, let's aim for the moon and see what we can do. So the other detail to note here is you can see my average sale price was a little bit higher than I thought. It was actually $962,000. You can see that I had an average commission of 2.6%. So you can see that not only did I stick to my 5% commission of collecting the 2.5%, but I actually double-ended quite a few deals where I did both sides. I had a listing and I brought the buyer to it. And then I had other situations where I was able to generate more income from pre-construction as well, where pre-construction projects will pay me 3 or 4% for the project. And then you can see I had an average commission of $19,873. And I also tracked the average number of showings that I had to go on before buying a home with a buyer. And it was just 4 showings on average. So that number being so low means that I did a really good job of making sure that I had very clear direction for the clients on what it is we were looking for, combined with the fact that this market at this time was very aggressive for buyers needing to act quickly if they like something. So it meant that by the time we went out, we would find things we liked and then we had to make a move on it. So there's a really quick breakdown of exactly how much money I made that year. Now, the next question you might have is, Jake, where in the world did all of that business come from? How did you generate that much business? I actually go in depth on this specific year of real estate for me, and I talk about my lead sources. I break down exactly where all of those leads came from and how we organize that. And you can click on this video right here that breaks down exactly where we got those leads. But in summary, I did a lot of different things. And what I noticed so many real estate agents struggling with is they have almost an entirely referral-based business. Now, these numbers show that I didn't have time to generate a referral-based business because I was brand new to the industry. So I didn't have years of recognition. I didn't have past clients to call on. It was all just me working with the marketing know-how that I was able to bring to the table in order to generate this level of revenue. So you can check out that video where we break it all down and we'll walk you through it. Now, if you're enjoying this video and you want to see more content like this, we have a whole channel like this that we're dedicating to helping other real estate agents understand the tools and resources that I've built up to generate well over $1.5 million in my first 2 years of real estate. And we're actually on track to do even more than that. But the reason we're sharing this is we know what it's like to be in a situation where you're struggling, trying to figure things out, wishing you had answers. And the more value I'm able to provide you guys, you're gonna enjoy the channel and get way more out of it.